Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Terrible Stories. I didn't let my mom borrow my car because she's a reckless driver. It started with a phone call on a Saturday morning. I was halfway through making breakfast when my phone buzzed, and I saw Mom on the screen. I answered cheerfully, expecting our usual casual chat about groceries, family gossip, or her latest TV obsession. But instead, she dove right in without much small talk. Sweetie, she said in that sing-song tone she uses when she's trying to sound casual, but actually wants something. I need to borrow your car next weekend. I paused, spatula in midair. For what? I asked, already feeling a twinge of unease. Well, she began, my friend Linda's having this big get-together and she lives about an hour away. My car's in the shop again. Don't even get me started on those crooks at the mechanics. And I really don't want to rent one. It'll just be for the weekend. I leaned against the counter, mind racing. This wasn't the first time she'd asked to borrow my car. And the last time? She'd returned it with a dent in the front bumper, 2 scratches on the driver's door, and the gas tank nearly empty. She swore up and down it wasn't her fault, and that someone must have nicked it in the parking lot. But deep down, I knew her track record behind the wheel. My mom isn't just a bad driver, she's a reckless one. She tailgates. She speeds through yellow lights like she's auditioning for a Fast Furious reboot. She's the queen of one-handed driving, while the other hand scrolls through her phone. And she has this bad habit of parallel parking like she's docking a boat in high winds. Mom, I said carefully, you know I love you, but I'm really not comfortable lending you my car. She gasped. What? Why not? You know I'm a great driver. I almost laughed. You've gotten 3 speeding tickets in the last year, I reminded her, and you hit that garbage can so hard last Christmas, it's still bent. That wasn't my fault, she huffed. The garbage can was in the way. And besides, I've learned my lesson. I'll be careful. You can trust me. But the thing is, I couldn't. Not when my insurance was tied to that car. Not when I still hadn't fully paid it off. Not when just picturing her weaving through traffic made my stomach twist. I'm sorry, I said firmly, but I can't let you take it. If you need to get to Linda's, maybe you can take the train or rent a car or carpool with someone else. There was a long, icy pause. Wow, she said finally. I can't believe you'd say no to your own mother. After everything I've done for you. Here it came, the guilt trip. She launched into a monologue about how she raised me, sacrificed for me, always put me first, and now when she needs a small favor, I won't even help. I stayed quiet, letting her words wash over me, because I knew engaging would only escalate things. Mom, this isn't personal, I said when she finally paused for breath. I just can't risk my car right now. It's not about you, it's about protecting my stuff. It is about me, she snapped. You don't trust me, and that's hurtful. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said, my voice tight, but my answer's still no. She hung up without another word. I stood there in my kitchen, staring at my cooling breakfast, feeling both drained and strangely resolute. I knew she'd be angry. I knew this wasn't over, but I also knew I had to draw a line somewhere. And knowing my mom, she wasn't going to take this lying down. The silence lasted about 12 hours. By the next morning, my phone started lighting up with texts. The first one was short. I'm still hurt about yesterday. Then another. I just can't believe you think I'd wreck your car. Followed by, I guess you've forgotten who used to drive you to school every day in the snow while working 2 jobs. I sighed and put my phone down. She had officially moved from initial outrage to the emotional siege phase of her campaign's slow, steady guilt pressure until I cracked. By lunchtime, she upped her game. I got a group text to me, my aunt, and my cousin. Can you believe my own daughter won't lend me her car for 1 weekend? Aunt Debbie chimed in almost immediately. Oh, honey, I'm sure she's just worried. Cars are expensive these days. Mom. Expensive? It's her mother. I would do anything for her. Cousin Marla. Wow. I'd give my mom my car in a heartbeat. I rolled my eyes. I knew Marla's car was a dented '03 Civic with a broken AC that her mom didn't even want to drive. Not exactly a sacrifice. Later that day, I got a call from my grandmother. Sweetheart, she began in that gentle tone she uses when she's about to push me into doing something I don't want to do. Your mom says you won't help her out with her car trouble. You know she's always there for you. Can't you make an exception? Grandma, it's not about helping her, I explained. It's about the fact that she's not the safest driver. Last time she borrowed my car, it came back damaged. I can't afford another repair right now. Grandma gave a sympathetic hum, but then said, well, she says that wasn't her fault, and she seemed very upset about this. I know she's upset, I said, rubbing my temples, but I'm not changing my mind. When I hung up, I realized just how much my mom had escalated this. She wasn't just asking anymore. She was rallying the troops, building an emotional case, painting me as the cold, selfish daughter who abandoned her mother in her time of need. That evening, I got another call from her. This one was pure theater. She started with a dramatic sigh and a sniffle. I just want you to know that Linda invited me weeks ago, and I was really looking forward to this trip. Now I guess I'll just have to tell her I can't come. Mom, there are other ways to get there, I reminded her. You could rent a car? I told you I don't have the money for that, she cut in. Besides, why should I spend money when my daughter has a perfectly good car sitting in her driveway? It's my car, I said firmly. It's not sitting there. It's how I get to work. She made a little sound of disgust. You're unbelievable. This is not how I raised you. And then she hung up again. I sat there staring at my phone, wondering why saying no to her always felt like stepping into a battlefield. Part of me almost wished I'd just said yes to avoid all this drama. But another, louder part knew that if I caved, she'd take it as proof that guilt-tripping worked, and she'd never respect my boundaries. The weekend wasn't for another 5 days. I had a sinking feeling she still had more tricks up her sleeve. By Wednesday, the drama had shifted from emotional guilt trips to logistical manipulation. I woke up to a message that simply read, "Good news, we can work something out," something. No explanation, no context, just enough to spark curiosity. I knew she was baiting me, but of course I called. So, she began cheerfully as though we hadn't spent the last 3 days in a Cold War. I talked to your Uncle Ron. He says I can borrow his truck for the weekend. Isn't that great? That's, good, I said, a little hesitant. Yes, except she dragged the word out, like she was introducing the twist in a soap opera. His truck needs a new battery. So I thought you could drive me over there, we could pick up the battery, you could help me install it, and then I'll just drive his truck to the cabin. Mom, I said slowly, do you hear how much work you just volunteered me for? It's not that much, she argued. Besides, you're so good with cars, and then I won't even have to borrow yours. It was clear she thought this was the perfect compromise, except the compromise involved me spending hours running errands and doing free labor, all to avoid lending her my car, which was the original problem she created. I told her I couldn't take a day off work for that. She got quiet, then said in that soft, wounded voice, I just thought you'd want to help me, but I guess I'll figure it out. That evening, my friend Kelsey texted me. Your mom just called me to ask if I could drive her to Ron's place. What is going on? I groaned. She's trying to borrow his truck instead of mine, but she's roping everyone into helping her get it ready. Kelsey replied, good luck. If she calls me again, I'm telling her I'm out of town. By Thursday, she had abandoned the truck idea entirely. I know because I got a long, dramatic voicemail in which she said the truck was too much hassle and that she had no choice but to revisit the original plan. Translation, she was back to begging for my car. Think about it, honey, she pleaded in the message. It's only for 3 days. I'll be careful. I promise nothing will happen this time. And if it does, well, I'll deal with it. But that I'll deal with it made me flinch because last time, dealing with it meant me paying half the repair bill. I decided I needed backup of my own. That night, I called my dad divorced from my mom for over 20 years, but still someone who understood her tactics. When I explained the situation, he laughed softly and said, yeah, she's never changed. Stick to your guns, kiddo. She'll get over it eventually. Just don't expect her to apologize. The weekend was almost here, and I could feel the storm building. If I thought she'd already thrown everything at me, I was wrong. She still had one move left, and it was the one that would hit me hardest. Friday morning started deceptively calm. I hadn't heard from my mom since the night before, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd accepted defeat. I should have known better. At 9 a.m., I got a text from my sister. Mom's at my place. She says she needs to talk to you in person. My stomach sank. I barely had time to reply before my phone buzzed with an incoming call. Mom, of course. Hey, sweetheart, she said in that sugary tone she uses when she's about to drop a bomb. I'm here with your sister, and we were thinking. You should come over, just for lunch, nothing serious. That nothing serious was my cue to brace myself. When I arrived, I walked straight into an ambush. Mom was sitting at the table, arms crossed, while my sister looked like she'd been drafted into a hostage situation. Sit down, Mom said. We need to clear the air. The clearing the air lasted exactly 2 sentences before she launched into a monologue about how ungrateful I was. She listed every favor she'd ever done for me, buying me a bike when I was 12, helping with my first apartment deposit, bringing soup when I was sick last year as though each one was a down payment on my car. I'm your mother, she said, her voice breaking just enough to make my sister shoot me a please don't make her cry look. I've sacrificed so much for you. And now when I need something so small, you slam the door in my face. It's not small, Mom, I said, keeping my tone as even as I could. It's my car. You've gotten into 2 accidents in the last year. I can't risk it. She slammed her hand on the table. Those weren't my fault. They both involved you running red lights, my sister mumbled under her breath. Mom shot her a glare that could have peeled paint. Then she turned back to me and delivered her trump card. Fine. If you don't care about me, I guess I'll just take the bus. And if something happens to me while I'm out there, at least I'll know my own child didn't want to help me. That one hit like a punch to the gut. It was pure, unfiltered guilt manipulation, and she knew it. I didn't answer. I just stood up, said, I'm sorry, but my answer's still no, and left. Half an hour later, I got another text this time from my aunt. Your mom just called crying. She says you abandoned her. It was only Friday afternoon, but I knew the weekend was going to be hell. By Saturday morning, the situation had officially escalated into what I can only describe as DEFCON Mom Level 1. She had taken the dispute public. I woke up to a barrage of notifications. Friends, coworkers, even my old high school lab partner had tagged me in the same Facebook post. There it was, in all caps, on my mom's timeline. Can you believe your own child would leave their mother stranded just because they're selfish? The comments section was split into 2 camps. Her friends who were all rallying behind her. Some kids these days have no respect. She raised you, you owe her. And a handful of my friends who knew the backstory and were tentatively pushing back. Cars are expensive to fix. Maybe this isn't fair to ask? My phone started buzzing with direct messages. Hey, is everything okay with your mom? Yikes, I saw her post. What happened? Not to be rude, but that's kind of cold, isn't it? I realized then that she wasn't just trying to guilt me in private anymore. She was actively trying to shame me into giving in. By mid-afternoon, she had upgraded the post with a new paragraph. I guess some people forget who brought them into this world. I don't know how I'll get to my doctor's appointment Monday, but I guess that's not important to certain people. She left the certain people part hanging like a noose, fully aware everyone knew she meant me. I spent the rest of the day screenshotting everything. It wasn't just about defending myself anymore. It was about having proof. If this spiraled into full-on family drama, and it was well on its way, I wanted receipts. That night, I finally called her, not to negotiate, but to set a boundary. Mom, I'm asking you to take down the posts, I said. Her voice was ice. I'll take them down when you decide to be a good daughter. So, never then? I said before hanging up. It felt harsh, but I also felt something new resolve. She had just shown me she was willing to burn our relationship down in public to get what she wanted. By Sunday morning, I knew this wasn't going to end quietly. Sunday afternoon, I got the text I'd been half dreading, half expecting. Family dinner tonight. Be there. We need to talk. It was from my aunt, and when my aunt says we, she usually means my mom, plus any relatives she's managed to recruit to her cause. I seriously considered skipping it, but I knew if I didn't show up, I'd be labeled the one avoiding the truth, and the story would twist even further in her favor. So, I went. The moment I walked into my aunt's dining room, I could feel the atmosphere. My uncle wouldn't look at me. My cousin gave me this pitying smile. And my mom? She sat at the head of the table with the smug satisfaction of someone who knew she'd gathered a jury biased entirely in her favor. Dinner was awkwardly silent at first, just the sound of cutlery clinking and my aunt's overenthusiastic offers of mashed potatoes. Then my mom casually launched into her speech. I just think it's sad when people put objects before family, she began, her eyes locking onto me like laser sights. Some people don't understand that helping your mother in her time of need is more important than worrying about a scratch on a car. I could feel everyone's eyes flicking toward me, waiting for my rebuttal, so I gave it. My mom, this isn't about a scratch. It's about safety. You've gotten into 3 accidents in 2 years. You run red lights, Accidents happen, she interrupted, her tone dripping with faux innocence. And if my own child can't trust me, what does that say about our relationship? That's when my uncle chimed in. She's right, you know. This is family. You only have one mother. Exactly, I said. Which is why I want her to stay alive. And lending her my car so she can drive recklessly doesn't help with that. The table went dead silent. My mom's jaw tightened, her hands gripping her fork like she might snap it in half. Well, she said, I didn't realize you were going to humiliate me in front of everyone. That was rich coming from the woman who had been publicly roasting me on Facebook all week. By the time dessert was served, it was clear I had lost the popular vote at this table. But I also knew something they didn't. I was done playing defense. Because if she wanted a public war, I was ready to fight it. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of notifications. My phone screen was lit up like a Christmas tree texts, missed calls, and of course, screenshots. Apparently, my mom had decided to escalate. She'd posted a long, dramatic Facebook status that read something like, some people would rather see their mother struggle than offer even the smallest kindness. Imagine raising a child for 25 years, only for them to treat you like a stranger. I hope one day they have kids, so they know the pain of being abandoned. The comments section was exactly what you'd expect. Her friends from church were flooding it with, prayers for you, sweetie, and some kids just don't understand the sacrifices we make. A few relatives chimed in, adding their own little guilt sprinkles like, times are tough, you never know when you'll need help yourself. I could feel my blood pressure climbing. The fact that she'd painted me as some heartless monster wasn't surprising, but the sheer theatricality of it was infuriating. And the best part? She left out the entire reason I said no, her reckless driving record and complete refusal to change her habits. I typed out at least 10 different responses, each one angrier than the last, before forcing myself to stop. Responding directly under her post would just make me look defensive. I needed to be strategic. So I made my own post, calm, factual, no drama. It read, boundaries are not abandonment. Sometimes saying no is the healthiest choice for everyone involved. Love doesn't mean enabling behavior that puts lives at risk. It wasn't a direct shot, but everyone who knew the situation could connect the dots. Within minutes, my post had its own comment thread, half people agreeing with me, half people calling me cold. And then, the texts started rolling in again. My cousin messaged, I think you just declared war. Let's say my aunt sent, you could have kept this private. And my mom? She texted, nice to know where I stand with you. Don't expect a call on your birthday. By lunchtime, I realized something. She wasn't just mad about the car. She was mad that she couldn't control the narrative anymore. So, fine. Let her be mad. Because for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had the upper hand. The tension between us didn't simmer down. It boiled over. A week after the Facebook fiasco, I came home from work and noticed something strange. My apartment door was unlocked. My first thought was that I'd forgotten to lock it in the morning, but when I stepped inside, the truth hit me like a punch. My mom had been here. She was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping a coffee from my own mug, looking as calm as if she owned the place. I froze. What are you doing here? She shrugged. I needed to talk to you face to face, since you won't answer your phone. And I used the spare key, the one you gave me for emergencies. She said, emergencies? Like it was just another word for whenever I feel like it. I set my bag down, heart pounding. This isn't an emergency. It is to me, she said, leaning forward. I need that car. I've got an important event to get to next weekend, and I'm not taking the bus like some nobody. You can take a rideshare for a few days. It won't kill you. My patience snapped. No, Mom. I've told you this 100 times. It's not about inconvenience. It's about safety. You speed. You run red lights. You've been in 3 accidents in 2 years. I'm not risking my car or someone's life so you can feel classy going to an event. Her face darkened. You've changed. Ever since you moved out, you think you're better than me. This has nothing to do with thinking I'm better, I shot back. It's about not enabling dangerous behavior and breaking into my apartment to pressure me. That's crossing a line. She slammed her coffee mug on the table. If your father were still alive, he'd be ashamed of you. That one hurt. It was a cheap shot, and she knew it. My dad had been gone for over a decade, and she always pulled his memory out like a weapon when she wanted to win an argument. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just walked to the door, opened it, and said, "You need to leave. Right now." She stood up slowly, glaring at me the whole time, and brushed past without a word. But as soon as the door closed, I locked it, took the spare key from the hook where she'd left it after using it, and slipped it into my pocket. I knew right then that our relationship had hit the breaking point. After I took her spare key, things between us went from strained to icy. For the first few days, she didn't call or text, which honestly felt like a relief. But then the silence broke, not with a conversation, but with a Facebook post. In big, dramatic letters over a blurry selfie, she'd written, "Some children forget who raised them. Some children forget the sacrifices their parents made. Some children are selfish." The comments section was a mess. Her friends who didn't know the full story were leaving comments like, "So ungrateful," and "She'll regret treating you like this one day." I didn't respond publicly, but I felt the sting. It wasn't that I cared what her friends thought it was, that she was trying to turn people against me instead of having a real conversation. Then the text started again. Long paragraphs, all variations of the same theme. "You've embarrassed me. I can't believe you'd treat your own mother like this. I'll never ask you for anything again, but don't come crawling back when you need me." I didn't reply. I didn't trust myself to. The real kicker came a week later, when my cousin messaged me privately. She told me my mom had been calling around to family members, telling them I'd refused to help her when her car broke down, and that she'd been stranded and humiliated because of me. That wasn't true. Her car hadn't broken down. She just wanted mine because she didn't like taking the bus. It hurt, but it also made something in me click into place. I realized that I'd been playing defense my whole life when it came to my mom, always trying to justify myself, explain my reasoning, or avoid conflict. This time, I decided to go on the offense, not in a cruel way, but in a boundary-setting way. The next time she called, I answered. My voice was steady. "Mom, I'm done fighting with you about this. You're not driving my car, ever. If you keep pushing, I'm going to limit contact for a while." There was silence on the other end, then a sharp, "Fine, do whatever you want. I don't need you." She hung up before I could say anything else. For the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I just felt free. But that freedom wouldn't last, because a month later, something happened that tested everything I'd put in place. It was a rainy Thursday night when my phone rang. I almost didn't pick up when I saw it was my mom, but something in me said I should. Her voice was shaky, almost panicked. She told me she'd been in a minor accident, not hurt, but her car was dented and the front bumper was loose. She was stranded on the side of the road. I could feel my heart racing. This was the exact situation she'd always used as a hypothetical guilt trip. What if I'm stranded and you won't help me because of your stupid rules? Except now, it was real. "Where are you?" I asked, already grabbing my keys. She told me, and it wasn't far. I drove over, headlights cutting through sheets of rain. When I pulled up, she was standing under her umbrella, looking small and tired. I helped her load the few things from her trunk into my car, and we waited for the tow truck together. She didn't mention borrowing my car, and I didn't offer. When the tow arrived, I followed it to her place and made sure she got inside safely. Before I left, she hesitated at her door. You didn't have to come, but you did." Thank you, she said softly. I just nodded. I'll always help if you're in trouble, Mom. But that doesn't mean I'm going to give you my car to drive around whenever you want. She looked like she wanted to argue, but instead she just said, I know. It wasn't a magical resolution. She didn't suddenly become more responsible, and I didn't suddenly forget all the times she'd pushed my boundaries. But there was a shift. She stopped asking for my car after that. Our relationship wasn't perfect, it probably never would be, but it finally felt like it was on my terms as much as hers. And that was something I could live with.